From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode 386. Today's show is brought to you by Squarespace, Hover, and Trade Coffee. My name is Mike Hurley, and I'm joined by Federico Viticci. Hi, Federico.
Hello, Mike. How are you?
I'm good, my friend. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, and we are also joined today by the one and only true man from Tennessee, America, Mr. Stephen Hackett. How are you, sir?
Hello. Why am I last?
Because this is the way it works now. We have a new website. It's connectedintro.com. This was put together by Zach and Matt, who are mods in our Discord. It's a lovely website, and it will now tell us in pure round-robin style who introduces who goes first, and then we're never going to be able to complain again. I'm really intrigued, though, like what will happen on the weeks where someone's not around.
Well, it's a call-in show. You got to call in for the intro.
Maybe. Or we build some sort of AI.
Okay.
Or actually what needs to happen is these guys need to build some sort of AI that can fake us when we're not available. Now, this is an amazing website. It was published I think before the episode went up. Like they did it while I was editing it. It has some amazing artwork, which you should go check out. And this is how we will introduce the show from now on until we die.
Jeez.
Okay.
Or the website dies. Who will live longer? You know?
I don't understand why death has to be involved, but okay. Yeah. It's a good website.
Never know.
Minus the death. Okay. Yes. Thank you to who created the website?
Zach and Matt.
Zach
It's
and
written right there in the document. It's like right in front of you.
I lost my place in the document.
I could tell.
Oh yeah. Okay. Zach and Matt, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have some feedback. I want to jump straight into real follow-up that is not about, the show itself. We have some follow-up from Ryan in Discord about classical music that we talked about last week. Regarding the Apple Classical app that seems to be launching on Android, and I have to assume on other platforms as well, as the standalone experience that Apple mentioned months ago when they acquired PrimePhonic, the service for classical music. And Ryan wrote a much better summary of what I was trying to explain on the show. So Ryan obviously know what they're talking about when it comes to classical music. And I'm just going to paraphrase here. I'm just going to read here from this paragraph because it really sums it up well. The experience of trying to find recordings of pieces of classical music has always been pretty broken in any music streaming or purchasing service, even back in the iTunes day. This is what I was trying to explain. The model that Apple went with for categorizing their music is not really compatible with classical music. You're dealing with at least 3 individuals or groups: the composer, the ensemble, the conductor, and the soloists, that all have very important parts in making the music. There are different types of ensembles that all have their musical traditions, music from different time periods, and this was also something else that I wanted to mention. The year that the piece was composed is usually different than when the recording was made. And many more factors that differentiate classical music from popular music in terms of a categorization standpoint. So there are so many different variables when it comes to how do you properly categorize classical music, because it's not like pop music at all. And so if you want to have a very good experience for folks who want to listen to classical music on a streaming service, you probably have to make a separate experience that is just for that.
This really opened my eyes as to why it needs to be a separate experience. Like trying to cram all of this in the music app as we know it today, I just don't see a way that would be feasible, because you have all these additional fields and all this additional data that people want to search and filter by and all those things. I'd kind of wondered when this was announced, why are they doing it separately? Why not just have maybe even a section in the music app? But Ryan's comment really made me understand what these users want is really totally different from what other music kind of needs. And so, to best serve them, of course it would be a separate app.
Seems like from an architectural standpoint, you have to begin again.
Yeah.
I will just say, as somebody who lived through the Greengate period, I want no more classical music follow-up. If you have more to add on this, just, I don't know, email it to a friend. No more.
Write a blog post.
I honestly feel like classical music. No, I disagree with that. Classical music people have my sympathy. They're good people.
Right.
They know what they're talking about. They have classical people. They have, and I really like using this word. They have exquisite taste. You know, exquisite
is
a good word.
The reason I'm saying all this is because I can feel in you that you would happily just keep talking about this every single week. It is very rare that we have a piece of follow-up which is not labeled, and you just start doing it. That's a rare. I was quite surprised when you just took that upon yourself.
Yeah.
So I can see where this is going. I don't want to keep dealing with this like we had to deal with Steven. You know?
Because Mike hates music.
I hate music.
Okay.
Yep. I hate music and green.
Our podcast does open with classical music, if you haven't heard it in a while.
Does it, though? To me, that's just the connected theme song. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know who actually wrote it.
I did.
I do know who wrote it. Don't email me.
No, it was me. I did that.
Yeah, I did in GarageBand one weekend. Settle down.
No, if you did it, it would have like a bunch of drum and bass beats.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of techno.
Isn't that an intro from an Apple event? In a garage making beats with Apple sounds?
Yeah, that's the music Steven wished he could have made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have purchased a battery backup for my network closet. So last week's episode, I disappeared for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I did when I was editing, I was like, you know what? It's time to finally fix this. The reason I haven't done it is that all my stuff is in the top of one of my children's closets. It's like in the center of the house where the internet comes in. And I have the modem, the cable modem from like Xfinity, and then a switch and an Eero. So anyways, I've bought a battery backup that will fit kind of in on the shelf. So a lot of battery backups people have, like the one I have under my desk, is a vertical one. Looks like a little PC tower kind of with lots of outlets in the back. And this one is more horizontal with the plugs on top. And so anyways, I got it. I did it this weekend. So now if my power just blinks, I will stay online because, that's on a battery backup. Where the switch and Eero are plugged into my office because there's Ethernet running between the house and the studio. That's on a battery backup. My Mac Pro is on a battery backup.
How long would you get?
The Mac Pro, not super long, but I think the network would stay up for a while because it's just like a couple of little boxes.
Mm-hmm.
It's very exciting.
Spotify car thing. This is something we spoke about a while ago. It is like Spotify built their own pseudo in-car entertainment system. I guess you could use it in flight, maybe. It is not a standalone player. I don't even think it has any storage. All it does is connects to your phone and your car, so you can play Spotify music through your car stereo with a nice little screen and a dial and a bunch of tactile buttons on it. I think Steven probably put this in there. It's basically a fancy remote control for Spotify on your iPhone or Android phone. And this was previously an invite thing. You could apply to get one, but now anyone can buy it. It's $99. It's $89.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty smart way of doing it because since it doesn't have like its own cellular connection and its own like playback mechanism or decoding or anything like that, I think it's why the price can be the $90 that it is, which is I think reasonable for what this does if you're into Spotify and you have a car that is basically just Bluetooth or aux in, so maybe you drive something a little bit older that doesn't have CarPlay or Android Auto. This sort of bridges the gap to those things. And I honestly, I really like the hardware. I mean, I haven't played with one, so it may feel terrible, but I love the way that it looks. And I think a really clever thing they've done is along the top ledge, you can't really see them, but they're kind of behind the front, the top lip, are 4 hardware buttons that you can program to go to your favorites. So if you have a favorite playlist or station in Spotify or album, You could just reach up and hit the button and then go to it. I'm glad someone thought of that. I think that's a pretty good idea.
I am just surprised that it doesn't even have a little like some storage that you could just put some music on it though. Like that's weird to me. Like,
but I mean, how would you do it? I guess from Bluetooth from your phone.
Yeah, like how you could download tracks on like to your phone and Spotify. You know.
Yeah.
So you could listen to some offline. It's just interesting to me that it's just a big remote control. I just find that kind of weird.
Maybe there'll be like a car thing, which I think is a great name. Like I like so much about this product. Maybe there's like a Car Thing Pro in the future that's $200 that does give you some of that.
Maybe. I don't know.
Anyways, I think it's interesting. And if you're into Spotify and you have a Spotify premium account and your car is sort of in this middle ground, then this could be for you.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's fun. I think it also wouldn't be necessary if more phones had an automatic sort of, I'm in the car, switch the UI to be a car-friendly UI mode. I think Android does, the iPhone doesn't. I think it would be smart if Apple had, like, it wouldn't have to be like a huge thing, but maybe if you have a media app, you could maybe automatically detect if I'm driving and maybe make the UI bigger and more comfortable to use. My car doesn't have CarPlay. My car doesn't have, any sort of fancy. It's got the basic Bluetooth integration with smartphones. It doesn't even display media artwork, for example. Like it's a very old Bluetooth standard, and I would happily just use my iPhone in landscape mode with my MagSafe Belkin car mount instead. But the problem is, when I'm driving, I would like those controls on the iPhone to be bigger, to be much larger. Now I could manually change in accessibility settings, some elements to make them bigger and more, high contrast, for example, only when I'm driving. But that seems a little too involved. And I think the last time I tried, I wasn't able to get exactly what I wanted done with shortcuts as an automation. I think, honestly, the iPhone is capable of detecting when you're driving, when you're in a car.
Yeah.
That should be a built-in thing, right? Instead, Apple is like, no, just use CarPlay. But, not everybody has CarPlay. So, yeah.
Yeah, Apple's idea is, you're driving in the car, we're going to turn your screen black because it's focus mode now.
Yeah. And Spotify does it. Spotify, like the Spotify app on the iPhone, has a car mode. And, when I was using Spotify last year, that was one of the things that I liked about it, that when it detects a Bluetooth connection to a car unit, it switches to a bigger, simplified, keep your eyes on the road sort of UI mode. That's a clever idea, I think. And maybe, I could see that sort of thing be an API for at least media apps, right? Because that's what you use usually when you're in the car. You're either checking out directions or you're controlling audio playback. So I'm surprised that Apple has done nothing on this front.
I guess
honestly.
why can't like my phone just be CarPlay in the car? Like why can't it
or
do
that? Or that,
Yeah.
or that's a much actually simpler approach. Like turn the iPhone, like turn my home screen, like enter CarPlay mode, and the apps that I have on my phone automatically show up on the CarPlay home screen because I have them installed. I don't need to log in again. I don't need to do anything. And of course, those iPhone apps already have the CarPlay components built in. So yeah, why doesn't the iPhone turn into a CarPlay, sort of like a virtual CarPlay unit when I'm in the car?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't all of the processing happening on the phone anyway?
It is, yes.
There's no reason that they can't do this then. Really, it's just whether they want to.
They don't want to. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know why.
Come on, get it.
It's a bummer. My favorite thing, sort of in like car audio world right now, is a lot of head units that you can get that's like to retrofit CarPlay into a vehicle. Or maybe you don't replace the head unit that you have, but you want to add something to it. A lot of these are like cheap Android tablets that have enough sort of like internals to them where they fake being a CarPlay receiver. So you're like sending CarPlay to an Android tablet in your car. Like something about that really makes me think that someone at Apple hates it. And that kind of makes me laugh.
That is funny.
This episode of Connected is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build your online presence and run your business. From websites and online stores, email marketing, SEO tools, they have everything you need to get your project up and running. They combine cutting-edge design and world-class engineering, making it easier than ever to establish your home online and make your ideas a reality. You start with a professionally designed template and use drag-and-drop tools to make it your own. You customize the look and feel, the settings, the products you have on sale. Everything is just a few clicks away. And all of your work is going to look awesome on mobile devices, so everything just automatically adjusts for those users. There's nothing to patch or upgrade. They have amazing 24/7 customer support if you have any questions, and you can easily and quickly grab a unique domain name for your website. So use Squarespace to turn your next big idea into a new site, showcase your work, publish a blog or a podcast, promote your business, announce upcoming events, and so much more. Squarespace really is so great to work with. I love their drag and drop tools where if you want this photo gallery above the text or below the text, like you're not having to dive into source code and move things around and accidentally copy and paste the wrong thing. Literally just drag and drop tools, and it makes it really easy to build something that looks good real quickly. Head on over to squarespace.com/connected for a free trial with no credit card required. And when you're ready to launch, use the offer code CONNECTED to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain name. That's squarespace.com/connected. If you decide to sign up, use the offer code CONNECTED to get 10% off your first purchase and to show your support for the show. Our thanks to Squarespace for supporting Connected and all of Relay FM.
The iPod Touch has now gone 1,000 days without an update. Thank you to Mac Rumors for pointing this out a couple of days ago. The iPod Touch features a 4-inch Retina display, Touch ID home button, headphone jack, a 1.2 megapixel camera.
Nice. That's a good one.
It's the best one. It's vintage. An A10 Fusion chip. What are we up to now?
A20 or something. No, A15, I think.
32 gigabytes of RAM is the starting storage.
Of storage, not RAM. Not RAM.
32 gigabytes of RAM, 17 terabytes of storage. No,
Sure.
32 gigabytes of storage, starting at $199. That's you can still buy it. You can go ahead and buy it. I was looking at this story and something popped into my head. I want to see what you two think about it. Do you think Apple would do for the iPod Touch what it did for the iPad Mini?
That's a fun thing to imagine because like with the iPad Mini, they didn't fundamentally change the reason why the iPad Mini exists, right? Which is it's a small iPad. It does everything an iPad can do, I guess, minus the Magic Keyboard, maybe. But you can use the pencil, and it's got the new design. It doesn't have Face ID, but it's got this new generation of Touch ID. It's an iPad. It runs iPadOS, but it's super compact, and it's using relatively new technology. With the iPod Touch, I guess there's a different problem. Because with the iPad Mini, we knew that there was still value in the underlying nature of the product. With the iPod Touch, I wonder if there's still value in the original idea behind the iPod Touch, which is it's sort of like an iPhone, but without the phone part, and it's a device. It was originally pitched for music and video games. But now that we have Apple Music and Apple Arcade everywhere, I think the problem that we got to look for is at the very core of the iPod Touch. Like, does it still make sense for the iPod Touch to exist in this, like, in its original idea? Because the iPad Mini, the answer is, yeah, I do want to have a very small iPad that does everything an iPad can do. with the iPod Touch, can you answer the same question with a yes? I don't think so. So I think a few things would have to change. Right?
Well, I mean, I genuinely don't think that the product has any clear.
Because it like, what's the market fit, if you will? Like, why would I need an iPod Touch? Right? If I'm an Apple customer, and Apple loves when you as a customer buy all of the products that they make, right? Because they believe that there's a place for everything, in the Apple ecosystem in your life. There's a place for an iPad, for a Mac, and for an iPhone, AirPods, Apple TV, and Beats, and an Apple Watch, right? They love it when you buy everything. But in this case, if I were to ask myself the question, why would I need an iPod Touch?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I? Right? Why would I need an iPod Touch in
like
its current
if
form?
they did do a Face ID enabled full screen iPod Touch with a new camera and a new processor, like, who is it for?
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
let's entertain this idea that they update the iPod Touch. They don't fundamentally change the product. They give it, more storage, new screen, maybe Face ID. No cellular connectivity at
Or
all.
a Touch
obviously.
ID power button, probably.
Or Touch
right?
ID power
Yeah.
button.
Yeah.
But it's still that. It's still like a watered down version of an iPhone.
Uh-huh.
Would it still make sense? And honestly, I don't think it would, even with updated specs. I don't see...
I reckon it's probably worth me interrupting you here to go to the daddy of the group. Hey, daddy.
Hey.
Because Kate's already mentioned it, and I know that people are already opening their Twitter apps to say, what about kids? What about the kids?
Yeah.
Well, you have those. So
Think about the kids.
won't somebody please think of the children? So what do you think? Because, I mean, I guess that's probably one of the reasons it has existed or did exist for a while. What do you think about that?
Yeah, our oldest has an iPod Touch, and we opted for that over an iPad mainly for the size of it. And he's basically using it as like a music player that has iMessage to me and Mary. It also has a headphone jack, which is one reason we went for it. Not that you couldn't use, I guess, Lightning or USB-C headphones, but I definitely didn't feel great about buying it. I did not want to do an iPod or an iPad mini for him, and really because of cost. But to me, that's why the iPod Touch is still there, because it's expensive for what it is, but it's a lot cheaper than the alternatives.
Okay. If it didn't exist, right, what would you have done?
Probably like a refurbished iPad mini.
Or maybe like a used iPhone or something. Like, because the difference here, I think, given that the iPhone has been around for 15 years at this point, I think it's much more common now to have used iPhones that you can hand down to kids than it was, say, 10 years ago when the iPod Touch was maybe a bigger deal. But I think it's easier and it's more common than before to have used Apple devices that maybe you don't want to sell, or maybe you're like, you know what, instead of selling this, I'm just going to give it to my kid and I'm upgrading to a new iPhone or a new iPad. And that was not necessarily as common 10 years ago.
So $200, right? That's what we're talking about. It's like, I wonder what you could get realistically for $200, but that's probably it, right? Like, if you didn't get him an iPad, you would get him a used iPhone. You just don't have to put a SIM in it, and then it's exactly the same, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Probably better, though. I reckon you could get a better spec'd used phone for $200 than a new iPod Touch.
Probably.
You know me, I had to come up with a fun thought experiment for the iPod Touch.
You did. Please.
I mean, what is an iPod Touch?
How big is the DAC on this thing? Just out of interest.
Right. So,
yeah.
Hear me out. What if... Okay, let's start from the very basics. We know that Apple likes money. They love money, right? They are a big money-loving company, right? They sure love the cash. And what if they came up with a way to sell you an iPod Touch? What if they went back to the very roots of the word iPod, right? What's an iPod? It's the device for music. Okay. What would a device for music made from Apple, what would a modern iPod look like or do? Or what would it offer in terms of enjoying and listening to music compared to an iPhone or an iPad or a MacBook, whatever it is you're using for music? So here's a fun few ideas that I sort of kicked around in our shared document here. Tons of storage for offline downloads from Apple Music or your own personal offline music library. But imagine like 512 gigabytes as the starting storage, and then, maybe like a 1 terabyte model, maybe even 2 terabytes. Is there even 2 terabytes of music in Apple Music, the whole catalog? I don't know. Maybe. I'm sure it's over 2 terabytes. But like tons of storage. And that immediately has me like, okay, that's pretty neat to have, a portable device that has made from Apple that runs iOS with a ton of storage for music. That would be cool. But of course, storage is not exciting, right? So now we're going to get into the weirder ideas. Ports! Exclamation point. Like, that's how it's spelled in the notes. Like, just that, ports. Like,
it's one of those slides. You remember the slides where the text used to fall down and the smoke used to, like when they do the keynotes? Mm-hmm. Boom! And then that'd be it. Just ports, like that.
Ports, right? Yeah. So imagine, like, I think it would be neat if the iPod Touch could slot right in your existing audio setup at home, right? Whether you got a home theater thing going on, or you got a bunch of speakers, you got an existing setup in your living room, or maybe you have, maybe you're part of that weird niche of people with the listening room because you're an audiophile. But like, what if you could take that little player and use it with your existing setup? So I would imagine that, the very obvious ports would be the 3.5 millimeter and the 6.35 millimeter jacks. That are very common in those kinds of setups. I could also see Apple, do something like using the 4.4 millimeter balanced audio output that is becoming more common these days. But judging from the logs that I hear...
Double check. You said you could see? Is that what you said, or couldn't see?
I could see.
You could?
I could. I mean, if we are entertaining the idea, this is all based on nothing, right? It's just speculation.
Okay.
We are imagining things, right? Uh-huh. If we were to imagine things, so start from that. Like, don't question my intentions. Just buy into the theory, okay?
I'm back on board again. I apologize for my incident.
Right, okay. So that's ports. Obviously, this device, call it the new iPod Touch or the iPod Pro or just the iPod.
iPod Pro.
Just iPod.
Can you imagine a world?
It would have, because Apple Music now has it, it would have built-in lossless and high-res lossless output, right? No odd limitations, as is the case with the existing iPhones and the existing AirPods. This thing has a new built-in DAC, and it outputs lossless and high-res lossless, doesn't care about it. It's got tons of storage, it's got a big battery in it, and it can output your, 24-bit audio, just doesn't care. From Apple Music, no problem. Lastly, and this is a fun one, what if this new iPod had a brand new equalizer app made by Apple? What if Apple made Equalizer a system like built-in app in this new iPod? Equalizing is like, I never do it myself, but I know that doing like tweaking, like the thing that Mike likes to make fun of, like, oh, I want to have a bit more mids. I want to have a bit more bass.
Like highs and low mids with the full round bass tones.
Yes. So you got to understand that some people like to do with audio, like to talk about audio the same way that like wine people tend to talk about wine.
I have noticed in myself, right, that I talk about the difference in keyboard sounds. So
Yes.
I know I'm one of these people
the
now, just in
lingo,
a different
right?
area. Yeah.
Each area has its own lingo.
Yeah.
And there's the lingo in audio too. And in audio, people like to equalize stuff. And so if we are entertaining this imagination, equalizer made by Apple would be cool. Like I could see like a nice UI, drag and drop to adjust like the curves and the lines. That would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
That would be fun. So that's my pitch, right?
Hire him, Apple.
Hire me.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a job as iPod product manager. So
It's a job that has not been fulfilled at Apple in a long time.
I will product
Very
manage your
lonely.
iPod. Look, I will make you thousands of dollars.
They take you to your desk and it's like covered in like trash and spider webs. Like this is where the last guy sat in 2010.
And there's still faded pictures of their family on the desk.
man.
It's like,
Oh, no.
Dark.
those kids are now in college.
Yeah. I guarantee
you.
you will not be in Apple Park. Like your desk is not in Apple Park. It's in the basement
Yeah.
of Infinite Loop. Like that's where your desk
Yeah,
is.
or one of those like far off offices like in Santa Clara or something. Like nobody cares about those guys anymore.
See, I
But
have this
yeah.
feeling like sometimes, like I know that people listen to this show and that, like we hear it, right? We hear from people every now and then that listen to the show and can grade the Rickies, right? Like they know enough that they could grade the Rickies before the event happens. I cannot tell you how much joy it would give me if like there is somebody at Apple right now who's like, you wait 2 weeks, then we'll see who's laughing. That like they're getting ready to drop this incredible iPod Pro, So you guys are chuckling. You think I sit on the very top floor of Apple Park. I got an office next to Tim's. We've been working hard on this thing,
If they bring back the iPod with a music angle, I will get. You can record me here. You can save this clip.
We are literally recording you.
I will get. Well, I mean the people at large, because we need witnesses. I will get an iPod related tattoo. If they bring back the iPod with the music angle for people like me, I will get it. Now, not saying the Apple logo or like something iPod related.
I would say like a single line kind of iPod, just like one of the classic iPods of a click wheel tattoo would just look really good. You should just like think about that anyway. So that'd be like
that would look good.
Yeah.
Or maybe the silhouettes of the people dancing with the white earbuds. Like I can
Also
also
nice.
see that
That would also
being
be
nice.
Just
Mhm.
right
But
across.
I will
your
get it
lower
done.
back.
I will get it done. So, I mean, how could you resist this? I honestly don't understand why this product doesn't exist. Like, there's literally dozens of us out there willing to buy this product. So,
Take my money, as they say.
yeah.
This episode of Connected is made possible by Hover, one of Relay FM's longest running sponsors. When you have that one big idea, where do you go? Where do you start? For so many entrepreneurs, Hover is that first big leap. They have over 300 domain name extensions to choose from. So no matter what you want to build, there's a domain name waiting for it. They have excellent technical support to answer any questions you may have, and they're dedicated to getting you online, not upselling you. Hover has free Whois privacy so the bad guys don't get your information, clean UX and UI, and monthly sales on popular top-level domains. It's easy to see why Hover is the choice for people starting businesses. All my domains are over at Hover. Relay FM, 512 Pixels, a bunch of jokey domains we've come up with on the show. And I love the UI they have for finding domains, because sometimes what you want is already purchased, and they give you this great list of recommendations that they think would work for you, and some of them are really creative and really interesting, and I think it's just a great way to solve this problem for people. Hover's UX and UI is really simple, clean, and easy to navigate. So if you're a fan of intuitive user experiences and things that work straight out of the box, you're going to appreciate Hover. Buy your domain and start using it today. Go to hover.com/connected and get 10% off on your new purchases. The URL one more time, hover.com/connected. 10% discount on all new purchases. Make a name for yourself with Hover. Our thanks to Hover for their support of the show and Relay FM. I made a purchase that I want to share with y'all. I've been using an iPhone case for a while now. Some people who may have listened to the show long enough may know that many, many years ago, I had a couple of incidents of broken phones. And with the Pro Max, it's just a big phone. And I would like to have some additional protection, so I've been using an Apple leather case. But then I've made an upgrade, and I have a picture of it in the show notes for y'all that I've instructed you not to look at until now. You can look at it now, and I would like your feedback.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh my God, no. My word.
Okay, I'm opening the link.
Why?
Hold on. Oh God. Oh no. Mm-mm. No. This is bad. This is the case of a deranged individual. No. Why?
So for our audio listeners who aren't in the Discord at the moment, I don't know, what are you doing on Wednesdays?
Opening this image has literally put a beach ball on Safari for me. Like, I have to now force quit Safari because of trying to load this image.
Well, that we're going to talk about Safari in a future segment, so hold on to that.
No.
This is a phone case made of the little Steven head. So if you're a member and you downloaded the new wallpapers, there's wallpaper of this. It looks like Mike's desk.
Oh yeah, because if you're me, you can just look down at the desk and you can also see it.
Yeah,
so, like, that's
your life is an iPhone case.
Yeah,
it is kind of like holding a swarm of bees in your hand. Like, it's kind of the feeling you get.
It really bothers me. Like, it really visually bothers me. Like it's like the whole thing. Don't Google it, but it's that.
Oh,
like,
trypophobia?
It gives me that. No, don't say it. But yes.
you should take a look at the new Samsung phone, man. That's a good time.
Okay.
All right, so look, I have a question here. Are you actually going to use this as your iPhone case?
I mean, not if my wife has anything to do with it, but
Right.
I kind of like it.
Because I was going to say, like, how do you feel about the, like, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Not like arrogance, like when someone thinks a lot of themselves. What is the word that I'm looking for? Narcissism. Thank you, Kim.
Yes.
Are you not the vanity. Thank you, Robot MLG.
Well, what is it though? Of the two words?
Both of those words. Like, it's narcissistic. It's vain to have a phone case of just your own face, like a cartoon of your own face over and over and over and over and over again, you know?
Well, you know, if someone asked about
Wait a second. I'm not saying that. Someone could say that. I didn't say that.
Oh, it's like people who get their initials stitched on like jackets and ties.
No, that's cool because
Yeah, is it?
yeah, there's something cool about that. That's classy. Maybe this is just like modern classy. Maybe it's me who is out of touch, you know?
Zanson says you should have gotten Mike's face.
See, this is the thing. I feel like it's what you should have done because, like,
or
look,
us
take
together.
it from me. Take it from me. Or that. Yeah, take it from me. It's good to have somebody else's face all over your desk all the time, constantly, forever. In your life.
I've got a Kallax covered in your face.
Yeah, but you don't care about Kallaxes. You probably threw that thing in the trash. You burned it or something.
It's
You
right
don't care
here,
about
right
Kallaxes.
there, right through the doorway.
So what is the deal here? Casetify? What, you can make your own cases of them?
Yeah, so Kathy Campbell sent me this. You can basically upload your own artwork, and then they put it on they could do it on anything. They have a bunch of products. And this is a MagSafe capable case. The wallet doesn't really stick to the back of it, but it will charge and line up on a MagSafe puck, and it seems to charge fine. This is a bulkier case than I would want to use day to day, but I thought it was too funny to pass up. Maybe this will be my special occasions iPhone case.
How special could those occasions be?
I don't know. Supposed to go to like a formal like gala fundraiser thing this weekend, and maybe I could take it there.
Look at you! Wow.
No, that's
What is this?
Is it a gala for network closets?
Are you raising money for your internet connection today, or what?
Hey.
So listeners to the show won't notice this because I would have done such a fantastic job of cleaning it up. But after we spoke about Steven's internet issues, we have then consistently just lost Steven for massive chunks of the show today.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine that he has people like raising money for him now.
The power's fine. Comcast is just having a real day over here today.
That's fair enough.
But yeah, you can make your own case. You can upload your own artwork. Took a couple of weeks.
Boy, did you.
And boy, did I.
You made as much of your own case as anybody could make. It's just your face.
They make I think they make like laptop skins and stuff, but I mean, that would just be ridiculous.
Oh, that would be. Okay.
So I'm going to call Casetify cowards until they make this an offering. Like that this is
like
just,
a permanent.
That your face is just, you have to sign your likeness away to them, which is a whole other thing, but you'll be fine with that. Don't be cowards, Casetify. Sell Steven.
Yeah, I mean, Casetify, if you want to do some sort of brand partnership, hit me up.
But they've done it with SpongeBob, so surely they should do it for you.
Yeah,
know?
I'm basically on the same level as SpongeBob.
You are the SpongeBob of tech podcasting.
I don't know what that means. Honestly.
I don't either.
I don't like
know what
it.
means.
Whatever
This is
it
one
means,
of
I
those
don't
things.
like it.
I just want people to bring their own feeling to that, like what that means.
You know the ultimate version of this? People who buy fancy cars sometimes have those cars wrapped.
Yes.
Protect it and change the color.
Mm-hmm.
What if we did a full car in this artwork?
It'd be incredible. Whoever wants to donate their car to this, let us know. Email Steven.
If someone donates a car, I will wrap it with this, for the podcastathon this fall. You have my solemn word.
Wow. Okay.
We just need a car.
A car.
That's assuming there's going to be a fall 2022.
Whoa, hang on a second. Hold on a minute. Wait. No, I just thought we could go back here. We could take a couple of steps back here.
Mm-hmm.
So Steven said he will wrap a car for the podcastathon. Steven owns a car.
Well, I mean, it's
Is that
not
a
fun if it's my
car?
car.
Fundraising goal, everyone. All we have to do is reach an amount of money yet to be defined, and Steven will wrap his
Jill.
car in an image of his own face. Jill, I know you're
Jill,
out
if you're
there,
listening,
Jill.
I do not
Come
approve.
on. We can do this. This is the thing
No,
we
Jill.
can do. We can do this. Together we have the
Can
power.
we call it the daddy car,
Yep.
please?
We sure
don't like
can.
that.
The Daddy Mobile.
The daddy
So if someone donates a
mobile?
van, we could wrap it.
This is totally unrelated, but
Thank God.
you know what? You know something that bothers me, and that I've been paying attention in my life to people who do it. It's the people who, during conversation, they do this thing where they say, "As I like to say," and then like you would expect like some original piece of wisdom, right, from them, but then they just say a very common expression.
Okay.
As I like to
What
say.
made you think of this? What just happened that brought this to your brain?
I don't know. You said something, and my brain thought of you and your dislike for platitudes. And then I realized that I really wanted to say this on the show, and so I said it. People who like to act all fancy, so as I like to say, you're like, yes. What do you like to say? And then they have just a common expression that you've heard hundreds of times. Some people do that.
Or people that come up with a thing and then just keep referencing it. And then, like, you say it enough that then it seems like everyone agrees about this, as we all know. This thing I made up. I have a very particular example of this that I will share with you later on. I'm not going to say it right now. But when I say it, you'll go, yeah, I know what you're talking about. And everybody else listening out there, make up your own mind,
So you'll tell us soon, but not yet.
Soon, but not yet.
Yes.
Soon, but not yet.
But anyway, back to the daddy mobile.
No.
I'm sure we could find some kind of upholstery company to, like, make seat covers, that
You're
also...
going to want seat covers.
Just, it's also your face, So, like, just the whole thing. Anyway, let's bring this show crashing down to earth and talk about browser market share.
Perfect.
For some reason, someone put this in the document, so...
I want to talk about Safari. Okay.
Browser's market share?
Let's
you want to
do
talk
it.
about Opera next? You
Yeah,
want to talk
it's
about Firefox?
2012, and we're going to talk about browser market share.
I use Vivaldi because I'm fancy. Okay. All right.
Come on, then. What you got to say?
There's this report by web analytics company StatsCounter. I think they count stats over there.
You would
Hard to
like
say.
to think so. You know,
I mean, hopefully, trying the name. They probably drive around a van covered in graphs.
the stat
If we've
van.
learned anything about today.
Mhm.
Stats van.
Mhm.
So they say that Microsoft Edge is set to take over Safari as the world's second most popular desktop browser. I have some numbers for you.
Please.
Microsoft Edge is 9.54% desktop usage worldwide. Safari is 9.84%. Google Chrome, of course, still 65%. Mozilla Firefox just over 9%. So it's they're in there. Are you yawning? Stop yawning.
No, I'm laughing at like the difference. You know, like
Yeah,
Microsoft
65
and
to
Safari
9.
are fighting it out for 10%, and Google's like 65%.
Uh-huh. Yep.
What's the
It's
point?
a bit of a gap.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a lot of Mac users are using Safari, but not all of them. There's a gap there.
No, I would assume most use Chrome.
I think most of the sorts of users that we know use Chrome, but I think a lot of people just use what's built in.
No, I think that's the exact opposite.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think most people
Mhm.
we know are likely to use Safari. I think more regular users
Yeah.
who have a Mac because they want a Mac, they use the web browser, which is Chrome.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I think
in
you're
our
right. I'm wrong.
circle, in our circle of people, it's like a badge of shame using Google Chrome.
I
I
know.
think.
Yeah.
As someone
Steven
who's
loves
used
it,
Chrome
though.
on and off, I feel that pain.
Steven's a big
Mhm.
Chrome boy.
Not right now. I'm using Safari, but
Oh,
it's not going to last.
flip, flip, flip.
Of course, on mobile, it's different. Safari has 26%. Actually, it's not that different. 26% mobile market share. Chrome has 62%.
This really surprised me. I mean, obviously, I know there's a lot of Android phones.
Yeah, Android's way bigger than iOS
Yeah.
in the world. In
Mhm.
our markets, the iPhone is much bigger than
But
it is
I
worldwide.
still would have expected more than 26%, I think.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's a surprise to me.
What I thought about in reading this was twofold. A, yes, it did feel like a story we would have covered 15 years ago. But also, it's not going to do Safari any favors in terms of the fragmentation we already see, where some websites and web apps just don't work in Safari because they're targeting the Chromium engine, which of course powers Chrome, but also powers the new Microsoft Edge. So if you're not familiar with this, a couple of years ago, they sort of ripped out their own renderer and put in the render engine from Chrome
'cause,
inside
like,
of Edge.
There's been two Edges. There was Old Edge and New Edge. And Old Edge was basically Internet Explorer rebranded.
Right.
And New
It was
Edge,
on the Ragged Edge.
Yeah, there
Now
you go.
it's-
New Edge, which is good. It's like a very good web browser.
New Edge. It is, and they do a lot of cool like Microsofty stuff on top of it. I think a lot of the features are pretty cool.
Uh-huh.
But it's the story of this doesn't work well in Safari is only going to continue to get worse, and I don't know what Apple can really do about that because you just can't make people care if you have 9 or 10 or 16, whatever the number is where you are, % market share, and it's not really going to go anywhere, right? It's going to take a lot to unseat Chrome. It took more than a decade to unseat Internet Explorer, and Apple in part was involved with that because before this split between Blink, which I think is like the new name for the Chromium engine, that and WebKit, it was all the same.
Yeah.
And they're slowly diverging, and especially in areas around media playback and things like we see a lot just in our corner of the internet with like podcast services, like, oh, I can record in the browser. Like a bunch of that stuff just doesn't work in Safari because Safari doesn't adopt the same media codecs and support that Google's willing to. And I don't see how Apple like begins to counter that.
They can't. I think it's Apple's responsibility to try their best to make things that work on Chrome work in Safari.
Mm-hmm.
You can't counter it with 10%, and you're not going to turn that tide. So if Apple genuinely believes in Safari and its security, they need to make it a better experience, starting with being completely compatible with everything Chrome is. outside of that, like they're kind of, look, there's a reason that Chrome extensions now work with Safari because no one's making Safari extensions.
Well, even then, like you say that, but they still have to run through Xcode in the App Store. Like
I know,
Apple still has put, still put like gatekeepery type stuff. And I get it, and I'm sure there are a lot of Chrome extensions that are capable of bad things, and Apple doesn't want that. I mean, look, if something can see your entire browser history, like that is a security angle. But Apple hasn't really like fully embraced some of the stuff that Chrome has brought. I mean, I would even argue that the interface for extensions in Safari is like it like punishes people who want to use a lot of extensions. Like I think it's really bad looking and annoying to manage.
Safari for me right now, we're on a different tangent now. Safari for me right now is the most unreliable piece of software on my Mac. I was referencing earlier about the beach balling when I opened a link. That happens to me like 2 or 3 times a day, and the only way out of it is to completely force quit Safari. And I think it is related to tab group syncing. I use tab groups a lot. I've said this before. It's still happening that I'm doing something in a web page and it just reloads to a previous point in the day and then opens up a bunch of tabs that had otherwise been closed. Or I go to, I pick up my iPhone, I do something on my iPhone, I go to my Mac and the tabs just aren't correct. And it will maybe load at some point within the next 2 hours, usually when I'm doing something where I don't want it to do that. Or like I just open a link and Safari beach balls. This happens to me all the time. And it's like, I really like the feature. And when it works, it's great. But when it doesn't, which is quite a bit, it's really annoying. And it's like this, I don't know. It's just like, this is just one of those things where I'm like brought back to like, oh, is Apple good at web services? Because like this is an iCloud syncing problem is what's going on here, right? And I thought we were over that as a problem. So that's just my aside complaint about Safari because we're talking about Safari.
Yeah. Well, and the reason that I kind of went back to it on the Mac is that I like having history sync and like tab sync between my iPhone, iPad, and Mac. But the reality is that's been broken for me really since Monterey. Like sometimes the iCloud tabs are up to date. Like right now they're, I think, pretty close. But I very often had times where like the history isn't syncing between the devices. It's like, well, then what's the point of using what feels like a inferior browser on the Mac with features that don't really line up with how I want to use my Mac in like why? And that's sort of the problem in my mind. Like one of the problems with Safari is that it is so tied to iCloud. When iCloud stuff is working, those features are really nice. But when they don't, it like damages the reputation of Safari in your mind. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's like Apple's MO right now is like every thing on your devices is going to talk to iCloud in some way. And most of the time that's great. But when it's not, it hurts that product's reputation. And I think people kind of look at Safari as, it's not as compatible. It's not as, not as like fully featured in some ways that Chrome is, and sort of write it off. I mean, clearly the numbers say that if whatever the Mac market share is, not everyone's using it, and there are good reasons for that.
Federico, I would like your opinions on Edge.
It's not a bad browser. I kind of like it. Now that I'm playing around with Windows for gaming stuff.
Yep.
And you got to use the Edge, right? It's pre-installed, and you got to download 1Password, and you need to sign into Steam and stuff like that. I've used it a bunch. I like it. I like it better than Chrome. I think it's better designed. There are a few things that I want to call out that I like. The first one, it's a feature that a ton of people either hate or love. I'm in the love camp myself. Vertical tabs. Yes, I am. Vertical tabs. You can use optionally a vertical mode for your tabs. And it's cool. It's kind of like having an outline for your open tabs in Edge. I like it. I use it. I like it. The design of all like the settings and the iconography that they use. There's a ton of settings. It's kind of like iCab. There's a ton to choose from in terms of customizing your behavior, and those things that I don't like the start page that has a news feed built in. I dislike those things because the websites that they promote in those sections are usually, kind of spammy blogs and whatnot. But basically, Edge feels like, what if some of the most popular browser extensions were built into the browser itself? Microsoft has been doing some of that, so that's neat. But you can turn it all off if you don't care. And lastly, I like how you sign in with your Microsoft account and you keep everything synced, right, across devices, including their own versions of tab groups or bookmark folders, but basically Edge as collections. So you can create these collections of websites and you can sync them across devices. So they're, like what Apple has been doing with the tab groups. It's like glorified bookmarks or a way to group related tabs together. So that's neat. I like it. Obviously, on iOS and iPadOS, you can now set Edge as your default browser, but you still give up some of the conveniences that you have with Safari. Most of all, you give up the whole shortcuts integration in the share sheet. That's one of the limitations on iOS and iPadOS when it comes to shortcuts. Even simple things like accessing the text selection from a web page only works with Safari on the iPhone and iPad if you're a shortcuts user.
Right.
Because other browsers, they cannot expose the, the DOM of the web page.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny, really. It's like,
I love DOM.
we're going to make you use our rendering engine, but we're not giving you any access to it. Okay.
Exactly. I don't really understand. So you cannot run JavaScript.
That sounds like a pretty Apple move.
Yeah, true.
Yes.
True.
Yes. But Edge is not terrible. There is a lot of innovation happening. I mean, I make fun of it, but between Vivaldi and Edge, Opera is doing I believe the blockchain stuff, which I find gross. So I don't want to get into that. What's the other one called?
Vivaldi browser. I've never heard of this before.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty cool. What Firefox? Mozilla, the Mozilla Foundation, they're doing some really cool things with Firefox.
Brave.
What's the other one? Brave, yes.
And there's in there that one now. I don't remember the name of it, but there was a Adam Lisa Gore ad for it, right? Which is where it's like Xbox streaming, but for web browser.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Yeah, Amazon used to have a product like that too, called Silk, I think, where it would basically render your webpage somewhere else and then load you a view of it.
Yeah.
Maybe the Discord will tell us.
There is also this one that I got into the beta recently, Orion browser. That is it's like a Safari but simpler and faster. Orion is WebKit based and Mac only, which is pretty cool.
And there's that company called the Browser Company, which they have an incredible amount of talent working for them, but they have
tons of hype around it.
Yeah, but they haven't shipped anything yet. But their team is just an all-star team of designers and developers. But they haven't done anything yet, which is fine.
And the website is thebrowser.company. It's just that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having an iPhone case with your face on it. Who would do that?
No one's told me the name of this one that I was thinking about though. Mighty. That's it.
What?
It's called Mighty.
Mighty
This is the
browser?
one where it does all the rendering, as Steven said, and then you just see it. It's faster Google Chrome.
Faster than Google Chrome.
It takes 10 times less memory. That's their whole thing.
Oh, it's streaming Google Chrome?
Yeah.
Huh. I mean, these days I can play Halo Infinite streaming from Xbox. I bet you can just as easily and quickly open a web page and of course it's not gonna have the memory footprint of Chrome. This is actually genius.
More tabs, less memory. That's the whole thing.
Their hiring page is a Notion page. Come on. That's peak startup
That's
right
because-
there.
Yeah.
You can stream it. That's why, because you can stream it, and it's not gonna bring your computer to a halt.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's a demo. The hiring page is a demo.
I mean, really, isn't loading any web page just sort of streaming? If you think about it, like really, like what is streaming, dude?
Okay, well, we can get into the whole thing of like ownership and like
There
what
it
does it like if you're looking at a browser, like does it really matter?
What
Anyway.
Federico's saying is we need to decentralize the web.
Okay, hear
Pretty
me
sure
out.
that's what he means.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
What if instead of apps, the blockchain folks, they like to have dApps with decentralized apps?
Oh, is that a
Hear me out. Hear me out. Let's rebrand PWAs, which are a terrible name anyway. Let's rebrand web apps as BAPs
DApps?
for browser. BAPs with a B.
Oh,
Like
right.
browser apps.
Right.
BAPs.
Browser.
BAPs.
BAPS, BAPS, BAPS. That is the name of like a bread roll here, like in some
Oh.
parts of
bap?
England. Yeah, get like a bacon bap.
Get a BAP, governor.
Yep, that's it. You nailed it. A bacon bap would be like a bacon roll, like a bacon bread roll or something. So it would be pretty fun.
You know, a lot of southern states want to ban PWAs because the word progressive is in the title. I think that's bad.
That's a joke, right?
Yeah.
You see, this is the thing, right? If Stephen was editing, that joke removed. Mike editing, that joke remains. So,
Yeah, connected under mic is like the director's cut of connected. Like you get
Release
you get
the
everything.
mic cut of connected. That's what
The
everyone's
mic
going to say
cut.
now. They're all going to say it. Like every episode now, it's going to be like hashtag release the mic cut of every one of them. It's way riskier. And sometimes it goes to black and white and 4x3, That's the mic cut.
This episode of Connected is made possible by Trade Coffee. How do you like your coffee? Full-bodied roast? Something lighter? We all have our preferences, and no matter what you love to drink, Trade Coffee makes it easy to brew your best cup of it at home. Trade sells the freshest, roasted, and ethically sourced beans from America's best independent roasters. They ship it free to you as often as you'd like, whole or ground. Whether you're a coffee nerd or just want a better daily cup, Trade's real coffee experts taste test over 400 roasts and use technology to match your ideal coffee based on your preferences and brewing method. It all starts with Trade's coffee quiz, and they guarantee you're going to love your first bag or they replace it for free. Trade has been featured by the New York Times, Wired, GQ, and they've delivered over 5 million bags of coffee. Their subscription is no hassle. You can skip shipments if you're traveling or change your frequency if your needs meet or cancel outright at any time. Michael Hurley,
Stephen Hackett.
you're a coffee drinker.
I sure
How
am.
did you enjoy taking the coffee quiz, and were you surprised at the results? How's it been going?
I wasn't surprised because I know what I like, and I was able to give Trade the information very easily because I understood the questions because the questions were nice and simple, and I was really happy with the results. The stuff that Trade sent me was amazing, and then what I did afterwards, this Trade also has you can do their subscription, but you can also just buy from their store as well. And so I went and bought a bunch of coffee from the store, and we are using tons of that right now. But yeah, it's super good. I love all the curation that they do. It's one of my favorite things about Trade because they're doing all the hard work for me, and they present a bunch of really awesome coffee beans for me to get for myself. And so yeah, big fan.
For our listeners, you can enjoy you can enjoy Mike's lifestyle. Big fancy coffee boy.
Mm-hmm.
They're offering a total of $20 off your first 3 bags when you go to drinktrade.com/connected. So you get started, you take the quiz at drinktrade.com/connected, and then you are on your journey to the perfect cup. That's drinktrade.com/connected. Our thanks to Trade for their support of the show and Relay FM.
Display analyst Ross Young has reported that Apple has delayed any plans for a foldable iPhone until at least 2025. According to Young, Apple's not in a hurry to enter the market, presumably waiting on the tech to continue improving. Additionally, Apple is apparently also exploring a foldable notebook. Could be a 20-inch screen device, could be a laptop with a full-size keyboard, Like you could fold it like 90 degrees and you could use it as a software keyboard and you can type it, but it's all screen. Or you could unfold it completely and you've got like this full screen 4K monitor that you could use with an external keyboard. And Young is expecting 2026 as the earliest for a product like this if Apple were to do it. I wanted to pose the question to the two of you. Which of these two products do you think makes the most sense to do first?
The phone.
Okay, why?
Because I feel like it would resonate with people more to have an iPhone that is fully actually foldable. The monitor, like the computer monitor thing, there's a bunch of problems there. Like I would love personally like a foldable iPad that I can be used as a small tablet or a big tablet, and I can prop up on a stand or connect with a keyboard or something. But to say that a MacBook is now foldable, which means it doesn't have a physical keyboard attached anymore, I don't know. Because you're taking away from an existing form factor, and we know when they tried to do, of course, it wasn't like a full-on software keyboard, but the last time they tried to revolutionize the laptop, well, we know how that went. So does it have to be a MacBook? Couldn't it be like something else? Couldn't it be an iPad? I guess maybe use a device where touch first is the starting point. I feel like that would be a better approach. Foldable MacBook scares me. Foldable iPad, because the starting point I'm already used to, that makes me feel better.
Yeah, I think probably is an iPad, right? Like, but you can it can still be a quote unquote notebook. You can still like use it like a notebook. In a sense, because you would have it like a laptop. In 90 degrees, you got the big software keyboard, trackpad, typing away over there. So you could still, like how you have a Magic Keyboard. Stephen, what do you think?
It kind of reminded me of the story that Apple has told. They were like working on what would be the iPad, and they realized they could put it in a phone. So like they put the tab. I think the quote from Jobs is like they put the tablet project on the shelf and focused on the phone. Maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe it's not. I kind of agree with Federico though. Like I think the iPad is the way to go with this. If you're going to have something that folds, I think that would be pretty awesome. I just don't see the like with foldables in particular. I feel like you need to be able to see the benefit of the form factor change, and that makes more sense to me on an iPhone and an iPad than it does a notebook, because notebooks already fold in half, and I just don't like. I don't want that control surface to be glass. And the other component of that is the software, of course. Apple has yet to put a touchscreen on the Mac, but now we're talking about a full like foldable laptop type thing. If that's going to run Mac OS, that doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It is very strange to me that they would release anything that was foldable that wasn't a phone first or maybe an iPad second. I don't know. It's really interesting, but I just don't think a foldable notebook, at least in the way that it's positioned in these stories, I just don't see that making any sense.
I think one of the things I keep struggling with is like what a foldable iPhone would be. Because I would say, like from my experience, the best foldable phone is a Z Flip. Like that's the one that makes the most sense. I haven't tried the most recent Z Fold, but still, like I kind of like that it's this fun form factor. But I don't really think that like a clamshell iPhone is necessarily that intriguing of a device. So I guess it's got to be some kind of iPhone which is small but can be bigger. And so I actually kind of agree that Apple should hold off a little bit longer. Like, I don't think I would be ultimately that excited with an iPhone that is technically similar to the current Z Folds of the world, because it's kind of a difficult product to deal with. Federico, do you disagree with me?
No, I fully agree with it. I have the Fold, and it's cool, it's neat, but it's still, you never shake that, like, oh, it's a neat prototype of something that is going to be much better in the future. Like, you
And
never
they
shake that feeling.
you know, I think one of the key things is like every 18 months or year or whatever they're releasing these things, they are getting significantly better every time. So I do kind of feel like it's probably best to give it a couple more years, let Samsung keep pushing the envelope for what this technology can do, and then consider doing it. But like, I'm just, at the moment, I'm struggling to get my head around what it would be. So like, I was wondering, like, would it be simpler to make an iPad device first as a way to get into this market? Because you could almost make it like it's its own thing, you know, like it's, rather than necessarily like this is the new iPhone. Because I think that's going to be complicated. Like, I don't really know how they get into that. Like, this isn't like when the iPhone got bigger, you know? When the iPhone got bigger, it was just like, well, the iPhone is just now bigger, you know? But the iPhone now being a foldable display, like, just from a software perspective, is a very different thing. And I feel like it would be easier to scale with more of a tablet device than a phone, just from like a conceptual standpoint. But I don't know. But I feel like it's just closer there than it is. Like the iPad, I feel like could handle this kind of device a bit easier than the iPhone could, just from like the way that the software would manipulate. But I don't know. I feel like laptops too complicated. Like, I don't think that, you know, as you guys are saying, Mac OS just doesn't feel right for this. Like, I don't think that a glass keyboard is really gonna work in place of a physical keyboard, you know? Like, I just think if they were like, here's the new MacBook, it's all screen, like, I don't know if I know what the benefit of that would be to me, you know? Like, I can't foresee that. I feel like I want a keyboard if it's going to be a Mac. If it's an iPad, I'll use an on-screen keyboard. We still buy Magic keyboards for our iPads because physical keyboards are better than glass keyboards for a lot of people most of the time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is very strange to consider it in a laptop form factor to me for all those reasons. I do like what you said about, like, this could be a new thing, right? It could be a new member to the iPad line. And I do think that's just an easier thing to manage as opposed to, hey, there's a new iPhone model. Because we've seen that over the last couple of years. Right now we have the regular iPhone and then the Pro, and then, you know, the different sizes within there. Like, I don't know how much more complex they want the iPhone line to be. And when you consider cost, like, no doubt this would be whatever form factor it's in, this is going to be an expensive device. Can the iPhone absorb a $2,000 device, like, in the market and the way people think about the iPhone? Maybe the iPad or the Mac could do that easier. The Mac definitely could do it the easiest of the three. But I think there's an angle to that too, of like, where does it fit in terms of perception of what this product line is and does, and like who it's for.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the iPhone, at whatever the Pro Max cost, I mean, you can get it to like $1,500 or something. I feel like they're already at the outer limit of what the iPhone can bear in terms of cost.
Well, Samsung would disagree, right? Like, they go higher, but I think.
But Samsung also has multiple lines of phones already. Like, we focus a lot on the Galaxy line, the Galaxy S, but there's also the A series of phones. Like, they have a broader portfolio than Apple does, even though those other phones may not be as popular here in the US.
Yep, I agree with you. But like, to your point, like, if this is going to be your first, like, whenever they do their first foldable device, right? If you make it an iPhone, there's so much expectation that goes along with that for, like, refreshing the product. Like, will there be a new foldable iPhone every year? Or, like, what if it doesn't work out and now you've made an iPhone and you have to stop making that iPhone? Where I feel like with an iPad, if they did some kind of foldable screened iPad, you get, like, you could be 2-3 years before you bring out a next model, if at all. I feel like there's so much more pressure to add to the iPhone line, iPhone mini notwithstanding, than it is to the iPad line.
Yeah. I think that's another angle here. Like an iPhone that's one and done, like that's a pretty bad look, and one that I don't think they would want to risk that. And not to bring up painful memories for people, but like Apple is sort of still recovering in the Mac line, at least from some products like that, right? Obviously the trash can, but the one port MacBook, like they had 3 versions of that, and it's gone. They kind of just got the Mac house back in order after 6 or 7 years of really some like pretty bad decision making. And I would imagine that moving forward, that I would hope that if you're like working on new products inside Apple, you have to prove that there is a feasible roadmap forward for the next couple of revisions. Right. So like when they built that 24-inch iMac, Mike, that you're sitting in front of right now, gorgeous machine, super thin. I'm sure that they know that thing can take an M2 and an M3 and maybe even further down the road. Right. They didn't design it so constrained to what they have available now, they couldn't upgrade it in the future. And something that's a new form factor, like I've just got to imagine that's a bigger conversation than it used to be. And that has to be a conversation in these things because this form factor is so weird that, like we need to know that this is something we can actually support and improve upon year after year or every 18 months or whatever it is, and not just be like, oh, we did it once and it didn't work out and now we're stuck.
And we're not going to see anything even remotely like this before they put a touchscreen on a regular Mac anyway. Like, this isn't going to be a Mac until the Mac gets a touchscreen. Can you imagine if, like, they refuse to put touchscreens on a Mac until it's all touchscreen, and then, like, that's still the only one?
Or it's, or even worse, the half that has the keyboard and trackpad is touch, and it's, like, locked to that half of the screen. But the UI part is like, nope, can't touch that part.
Oh, no.
That'd be amazing. That would be terrible. They should not do that. I would be really surprised if the first foldable thing we see is like a Mac OS notebook. That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
No, I don't think it will be. I really don't.
No.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Sorry, Ross Young.
Yeah, I guess Ross Young is our enemy now.
Yep. Ross, you are enemy of the podcast.
Wow.
So we disagree with the whole premise, and that's it.
Well, I think that does it for this week. If you want to read more about the stuff we spoke about, the awesome connectedintro.com, Spotify stuff, my iPhone case, anything, all the links are over in the show notes at relay.fm/connected/386. We should have talked about the Intel processor. It's not flashback.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe I didn't think of that.
I can't believe we didn't think about that. Well, in 100 episodes, we'll hit the 486. How about that?
Can't wait.
You're going to leave that in, aren't you?
Well, yeah.
Thank
This
you
is
for
your
editing this
essence. Like, this is who you are, is this kind of stuff. Would you have
maybe.
taken that out?
No. I would have left that in.
You would have put into a laugh track, though, right?
I did a laugh track last week.
Did you?
It was great. After just one joke. But
what joke?
I think I did it after. I'm trying to remember. I think I did it after I suggested I use a laugh track, and y'all didn't laugh, and then I put the laugh track in there.
Wow.
There's a lot of laugh sound effects that come in Logic.
Yeah, they're horrible.
Yeah, they're all really bad.
Yeah, they're horrible. And the cheering ones. Yeah, if I've ever used stuff like that, I buy them because they're terrible.
Yeah, the free ones are always bad.
It's always funny to me when I hear like an iLife or Logic sound effect in a TV show or a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really? Was there no budget for this?
Or like your theme song is a GarageBand loop.
Yep.
We've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, all the links are in the show notes. You can become a member and get Connected Pro. There are links on the webpage to join monthly or annually. I suggest annually. It's a little bit money off. Anyways, you can do that. Connected Pro is awesome. It is a longer ad-free version of the show This week in the Pro Show, we spoke about the early days of Twitter and some of our early Twitter usage and some of the funny language that has developed around Twitter over the years. I really enjoyed that conversation. I think you will too. So go join up and get Connected Pro. You can also leave feedback or follow up. There's a link to email us there on the website, or you can do it on Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, you can find Federico there as Viticci, Viticci, and he is the editor-in-chief of MacStories.net and is enjoying some sort of video game stuff. I saw a screenshot earlier of some sort of game happening, so that's cool, I guess.
That was a PlayStation video game, Steven.
What?
That a bunch of people are playing right now. Some video game stuff.
Some kind of video game that the
Some-
kids
I'm enjoying some sort of game thing at the moment.
Okay. Well, good.
It's called the Horizon on the PlayStation. You know, kids these days.
Yeah.
These PlayStations and yeah.
Playing their arcade games at home.
Yeah.
You can follow Mike on Twitter. He is IMYKE. Mike hosts a bunch of other shows here on Relay FM. Mike, what do you have going on this week?
Let me look at my calendar.
Cortex was really good.
Oh yeah,
I really
you should
enjoyed
check
it.
that out. Yeah, that was good. I
listened
never
to it,
liked
last
this
night.
question because I feel
I know.
like I have to like say things that I've done that I like, and that makes me feel very uncomfortable to do.
So the question feels taller than you.
The question is
okay.
definitely taller than me. There's no doubt about that.
You can follow me on Twitter as ISMH, and I host other shows here on Relay FM, including Mac Power Users. Go check that out. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Squarespace, Hover, and Trade Coffee. And until next week, guys, say goodbye.
Arrivederci.
Cheerio.
Bye, y'all.